The sky was a sickly green, streaked with lightning that cut across the horizon like jagged knives. Milan, a human engineer, tightened his jacket against the bitter wind that howled through the remains of the old colony. The air smelled of burned metal and dust, the result of years of neglect and violent storms that left much of the world in ruins. He had learned to move quickly during these acid storms, keeping his face shielded and his body covered. Every step he took could leave marks on his skin if he was careless. Milan had built his small shelter from the scraps of abandoned buildings. Its walls were reinforced with old panels, and inside it held a few essentials: a small generator, a water purifier, a heater, and a cot that was patched in several places. Life here was harsh, but Milan had learned to survive alone. He often reminded himself that solitude was safer. Trust was dangerous on this world. That evening, the wind picked up, and rain of glowing acid began to fall. It hissed against the metal roof of his shelter, sending small puffs of smoke into the air. Milan was inside, checking the generator, when he heard a sound outside, a soft, uneven tapping. It was faint, but against the roar of the storm, it was enough to make him pause. He grabbed his coat and flashlight and carefully stepped outside. The storm was fierce, and acid rain fell like needles against his protective suit. In the distance, he saw a figure lying motionless on the ground. At first he thought it was a trick of the light, a shadow caught in the flashes of green lightning. But as he approached, he realized it was real. The figure was small and humanoid, but unlike any human. Her skin shimmered silver in the stormlight, reflecting faint colors like a living metal. Her hair was long and white, sticking to her face from the rain. She groaned softly, turning her head just enough for Milan to see her wide, luminous eyes. They were terrified and filled with pain. Without thinking, Milan ran to her side. He dropped to his knees and pulled his jacket open. "Hold still," he said, his voice steady despite the fear in his chest. "You are safe now. I'll help you." The alien girl tried to move but collapsed again. Her limbs were thin and fragile, and her breathing was shallow. Milan noticed burns on her skin where the acid had touched her. He quickly wrapped her in a protective cover from his coat, shielding her from the storm. "Can you talk?" he asked, keeping his voice low to calm her. She whispered something that he could not understand. The sound was soft, almost musical, but the pain in her voice was clear. He realized that communication would be difficult, but he could see that she was afraid. Fear and exhaustion made her movements jerky, as she flinched at every new sound. Milan lifted her carefully into his arms, holding her close to protect her from the acid rain. Her body was surprisingly light, almost fragile, but he could feel her heartbeat, weak but alive. He moved quickly back to his shelter, shielding her as best he could. Once inside, he placed her gently on the cot. He tore strips from his coat to bandage the worst of her burns and pulled a small heater close to warm her. The storm outside roared louder than ever, and the walls of the shelter trembled under the wind's force. Milan studied her face. The features were delicate, almost like a child's, but her eyes were ancient in expression, carrying a quiet wisdom that made him uneasy. She stared back at him with a mixture of fear and confusion. "My name is Milan," he said. "I will not hurt you. Can you say your name?" She hesitated, then whispered a single word, her voice barely audible over the storm. "Rin." "Rin," Milan repeated softly. "It's a good name." "You're safe here, Rin." She blinked slowly, as if she were not used to being treated gently. She had likely experienced violence before, and perhaps trust was foreign to her. Milan understood that instinctive fear. He had lived through wars and raids, seen what desperation could do to both humans and aliens. But he could not leave her to die. That was not in him. He went to the small kitchenette and boiled some water. Using a cloth, he cooled it to a warm temperature and offered it to her. Rin hesitated but drank, her silver fingers trembling as they held the cup. Milan watched her closely, noting every detail: how her skin reacted, how her breathing changed, how her body seemed to hum faintly with energy even when she was still. There was something unusual about her, something more than just a stranger in need. Her presence seemed to make the air in the shelter feel different, heavier, almost alive. Milan shook off the thought. He needed to focus on immediate survival, not mysteries. Over the next few hours, Milan worked to stabilize her condition. He cleaned her wounds as best as he could and wrapped them with sterile cloths he had salvaged from old medical supplies. Rin did not speak much, only occasionally murmuring in her strange, soft language. Milan tried to mimic some of the sounds, hoping to make her feel less alone. As the storm raged outside, Milan told her stories of his life on this colony. He spoke of repairs he had made, machines he had built, and times when he had narrowly survived the storms. Rin listened, tilting her head slightly, as though she were trying to understand. Her eyes occasionally glowed faintly, reflecting the lightning outside. Milan felt a shiver run down his spine, but forced himself to ignore it. Night came, and the storm did not weaken. Milan built a small shelter within the shelter, creating a protective enclosure around Rin with old metal panels and blankets. He wanted to make sure she would not be hurt if the walls shook or if debris fell. She watched him silently, her eyes wide but calm. "I don't know where you came from," Milan said, "but you are safe here. I will take care of you as long as you need." Rin whispered something that sounded almost like a sigh. Then, for the first time, she reached out her hand. Milan took it carefully, noting how soft her skin felt, almost like silk. The warmth of her touch was gentle, but he could feel an undercurrent of strength, as if she were holding back something powerful inside. He smiled at her, trying to ease her tension. "We will get through this night, Rin. I promise." Hours passed slowly. Milan stayed awake, listening to the storm and monitoring Rin's breathing. Every now and then, her body shivered violently as if the cold or pain was overwhelming her. Milan placed his hand on her shoulder and whispered calming words, willing her to relax. She leaned slightly into him, showing a level of trust that surprised him. As dawn approached, the storm weakened. The green sky faded into pale gray, and the first light of day crept through the shelter's small windows. Rin stirred on the cot, her eyes blinking against the new brightness. Milan noticed that her wounds were healing faster than any humans would. There were faint traces of burns, but her skin seemed to shimmer with a strange resilience. Rin looked at Milan. For the first time, she spoke a full sentence in broken English. "Thank you." "Human." Milan nodded, feeling a mix of relief and curiosity. "You are welcome, Rin. We will figure things out together." He did not yet know the danger she carried, nor the truth of her species' strange and powerful nature. At that moment, all he knew was that he had saved a life. That was enough. Outside, the colony lay in silence, the ruins glistening with acid rain. But inside the small shelter, a human and an alien girl sat together, sharing warmth, safety, and the first fragile threads of trust. It was a beginning, and Milan could not yet imagine how this act of kindness would change both their lives forever. The morning sun had barely risen over the jagged horizon when Milan noticed something unusual about Rin. She sat on the cot, her silver skin shimmering faintly, even in the pale light. Her eyes, which had been wide with fear the previous night, now seemed distant, almost thoughtful. Milan brought her a simple breakfast of boiled protein paste and water. She ate slowly, her movements delicate and careful. "Feeling better?" Milan asked gently. He sat beside her, keeping his voice soft to avoid startling her. Rin nodded, her glowing eyes flicking to his. She did not speak at first. Instead, she ran her fingers over the burns that had covered her arms and legs. Milan watched in fascination. Her wounds had healed much faster than he expected. The skin was almost seamless now, with a faint silvery shine replacing the damaged areas. "You heal fast," Milan said, curious. "Are you always like this?" Rin hesitated. Her lips moved, forming words he could understand only partially. "We change." "Sometimes," she said softly. Milan frowned. "Change? What do you mean?" She looked down, her long white hair falling over her face. "My kind, we have a cycle. A phase. Dangerous. It comes once. 1,000 years." Milan's heart skipped a beat. Dangerous. "For who? For you or for everyone nearby?" Rin's eyes met his, filled with a strange sadness. "Both. Dangerous. Can destroy if not controlled." Milan swallowed hard. He had faced storms, raiders, and mechanical failures, but this was something beyond his understanding. He studied her closely. Her body seemed calm now, but but the air around her hummed faintly. There was an energy about her, subtle, but undeniable. "Do you need help?" he asked carefully. "Can I help you survive this?" Rin nodded slightly. Her silver skin shimmered brighter, as if responding to his presence. "Yes. Need shelter. Need safety." Milan understood that she trusted him. Even with this unknown danger, she chose to stay. His chest tightened with both worry and determination. He could not abandon her. He had saved her once, and he would do it again. Over the next few days, Milan learned more about Rin and her race, the Aryans. They were peaceful beings who had a long history of helping humans in conflicts on other worlds. Their bodies were capable of incredible healing and energy manipulation, but this gift came with a risk. When the Aryans reached a certain age, or during rare cycles, their energy could become unstable. If uncontrolled, it could harm anyone nearby, destroy buildings, or even change the environment itself. Milan felt a mix of awe and fear. Rin's body had already begun to show signs of this phase. Small things at first, lights flickering in the shelter, the heater acting strangely, and a faint humming sound that came from nowhere. Whenever Rin moved suddenly or felt pain, the energy reacted. One afternoon, while Milan repaired a broken generator panel, Rin's breathing changed. The humming in the air grew louder, vibrating through the metal walls. Sparks flew from the circuits, and the generator threatened to overload. "Rin, calm down," Milan shouted, running to her side. He placed his hands gently on her shoulders. "Focus on breathing. I'm here. Nothing will hurt you." She closed her eyes, her fingers gripping his hands. The humming subsided slightly, but the air still felt charged. Milan realized that her energy was tied to her emotions. Fear, pain, or stress could trigger dangerous effects. He would need to keep her calm at all times. Rin spoke softly, almost a whisper. "I'm sorry, human. You in danger." "You are not dangerous," Milan said firmly. "You are a friend. I will protect you, and you will survive this phase." Rin's eyes glimmered with gratitude. For the first time, she allowed herself to relax completely. Milan noticed her breathing evened out and the faint hum faded. It was a small victory, but it gave him hope. That evening, as the storm outside returned, Milan tried to make Rin comfortable. He built a small enclosure inside the shelter using metal panels and blankets. The space was tight, but it would provide some protection if her energy flared unexpectedly. He added simple devices to monitor her vital signs and energy levels. Even though he was only an engineer, his knowledge of basic science and machinery allowed him to improvise. Rin watched him carefully, her glowing eyes reflecting the flickering lights. "Why? Help me," she asked finally. Milan paused. "He thought about it because it is the right thing to do," he said. "Humans have survived because we help each other, even strangers. I need help and I can give it. That is enough." Rin seemed to consider this. She whispered something in her language, and Milan thought he understood. It was a word of thanks, but more than that, a word of trust. Days turned into a week, and Milan continued his work, repaired the shelter, strengthened the generator, and studied Rin's condition. He noticed patterns in her energy. During the early morning hours when she slept, the hum was barely noticeable. But when she woke or moved quickly, sparks would jump from devices nearby. She could not control it yet, but Milan believed she could with practice and patience. One afternoon, Milan asked her more about the Aryans. "Your people? This phase? Why is it dangerous?" Rin's eyes darkened slightly. "Energy grows, body changes, not controlled, can destroy the world around." Milan nodded slowly. He could imagine it. A being whose power was so strong that even accidental movement could devastate a settlement. He felt a chill but pushed it away. Fear would not help either of them. He needed a plan. He began working on a containment field using scraps of metal and the shelter's electronics. It was crude, but it might protect them both if Rin's phase intensified. Milan worked long hours welding panels together, adjusting circuits, and testing energy flow. Rin stayed nearby, observing quietly. Occasionally she would reach out. With her hand and the air around them would shimmer faintly. Milan marveled at her resilience and courage. One night, as the storm raged outside, Rin spoke in English for the first time. Milan, phase. Coming soon. Milan's heart sank. Soon. How soon? Days. Maybe hours. Cannot. Control alone, she said. He understood the urgency. He would need to be ready. He could not let her go outside, and he could not abandon her inside the shelter. The only choice was to face this phase together. Milan worked feverishly that night, reinforcing the enclosure and adding simple fail-safes. He monitored her continuously, noting every change in her energy and behavior. By morning, Rin's body seemed to glow faintly. Her movements were slower, more deliberate. Milan watched her with careful eyes. He knew the cycle was beginning. The hum in the air grew stronger, though she tried to hide it. You are strong, Rin, he said softly. We'll get through this. I am here with you. Rin nodded. Thank you, human. You kind. Milan smiled faintly, though worry tightened his chest. He had faced storms, starvation, and raiders, but this was unlike anything he had ever encountered. The phase was not just a biological process. It was a test of courage, trust, and endurance. As the day went on, small incidents reminded Milan of the danger. Sparks leapt from the walls when Rin moved suddenly. The small heater glowed bright red, and the air smelled faintly metallic. Every time it happened, Rin flinched and whispered apologies. Milan reassured her each time. It is not your fault. We will manage it together. He realized something important. Rin's energy was tied to her emotions and trust. She felt safe and cared for. Her power would be less likely to cause destruction. If she feared him or the environment, the results could be catastrophic. He needed to protect not only her body, but also her mind. Evening came, and Milan watched the sky darken with another storm. He adjusted the enclosure one more time, making sure the walls would hold if her energy surged. Rin sat quietly, her silver skin reflecting the dim light, her eyes calm but thoughtful. You trust me? Milan asked. Orion looked at him, and for the first time, her expression was not fearful. Yes, human, trust you. Milan felt a warmth in his chest. In a world so harsh and cruel, trust was rare. To have earned it from Rin, an alien being whose power could destroy everything around her, was extraordinary. He smiled faintly. And we face this together, Rin. Whatever comes, we will survive. The storm outside raged, lightning cutting through the sky, thunder shaking the ground. Inside the shelter, human and alien prepared for the unknown, bound together by trust, courage, and the quiet strength of a promise. And Milan knew, deep in his heart, that the coming days would test them both in ways he could not yet imagine. The shelter was quiet in the early morning, but Milan could feel a tension in the air he had never felt before. Rin sat on the cot, her silver skin catching the dim light of the small heater, and her eyes glowed faintly blue. It was subtle at first, just a shimmer beneath her eyelids, but Milan noticed it immediately. He knew the signs. The phase was beginning. He moved slowly toward her, careful not to startle her. Rin, he said softly, how are you feeling? Rin looked up at him, her eyes wide. There was a strange intensity in her gaze. Energy. Rising, cannot. Control, she whispered. Her voice trembled, though it remained soft and musical. Milan took a deep breath. He had prepared as much as he could. The containment field he had built with scraps of metal and electronics was crude but functional. It could not hold her indefinitely, but it might protect them both for a short time. He placed his hand on the edge of the field and checked the circuits. Sparks danced faintly along the wires, warning that the energy inside Rin was already affecting the room. We will manage this, he said, keeping his voice calm. You are not alone. I am here. We will face it together. Rin nodded slightly. Her body shivered, and the hum in the shelter grew louder. Milan felt the floor vibrate under his feet. He realized that her energy was already strong enough to move metal. He adjusted the panels around her, reinforcing weak points and checking the wiring. Every moment counted. Try to stay still, Milan instructed. Focus on your breathing. Deep, slow, steady. Rin followed his instructions as best she could. Her fingers twitched, and a faint glow spread across her skin, brighter than before. Milan felt the air thickening around them. The walls of the shelter seemed to hum in response, and even the heater rattled. He could see small sparks flying from the metal panels, but the containment field held. For now, Milan realized that her energy was linked to her emotions. Every fear, every worry, every sudden movement made it spike. She was terrified, but she had also learned to trust him. That trust might save them both. Hours passed in tense silence. Milan monitored Rin continuously, adjusting the field when necessary. He offered her water and food, but she ate little. Her body seemed to draw energy from the environment itself, and every bite she took sent a ripple of power through the shelter by midday. The humming had grown into a constant vibration. The lights flickered, and the metal panels creaked under the strain. Milan knew that if her energy surged suddenly, it could destroy everything around them. Yet Rin remained on the cot, her body glowing softly, her breathing uneven but steady. Milan spoke to her again. "Rin, listen to me. You must not panic. If you focus, if you calm yourself, you can control it. I know you can." She looked at him, her luminous eyes filled with a mixture of fear and determination. "Cannot control much. Human," she said. "I will help you," Milan replied firmly. "Together, we can manage it. You are stronger than you think." The afternoon brought the first serious test. Rin's body convulsed slightly, and energy shot outward, bending the metal panels around her. Sparks flew from the generator, and the small heater glowed white. Milan reacted instantly, pressing buttons on the containment field to stabilize the energy. The air vibrated and his hands tingled from the static electricity. "Hold on, Rin," he shouted over the hum. "You can do this. Focus on me." She closed her eyes, her glowing skin intensifying. The humming reached a high pitch, like the sound of a small storm inside the room. Milan placed both hands on the edge of the field, grounding himself against the surge. His heart pounded, but he did not move away. Fear would not help either of them. Minutes passed like hours. Rin's body shimmered brighter, and then, slowly, the intensity began to fade. She collapsed back onto the cot, exhausted. Milan rushed to her side, placing a hand on her shoulder. "You did it," he said softly. "You controlled it, even for a little while." "That is a victory," Rin whispered. "Thanks." "Human, helping me." Milan smiled faintly, though worry still tightened his chest. The phase was not over. It was only beginning. He knew there would be stronger surges, longer and more intense. He would have to be ready for all of them. As evening approached, Milan worked to reinforce the shelter further. He patched weak spots in the metal panels, rewired the generator to handle surges, and created small buffers to absorb sudden bursts of energy. Rin watched quietly, her body still glowing faintly. She did not speak much, but her eyes followed his every move. Milan noticed that her glow responded to his presence. When he touched the panels or spoke softly, the light dimmed slightly. It was as if she drew comfort from his calmness. He realized then that her energy was not purely biological. It was influenced by trust, safety, and human connection. Night came, and the storm outside returned. Lightning flashed across the horizon, illuminating the ruined colony. Milan kept a close watch on Rin. Her energy was unpredictable, but he had begun to understand the patterns. The worst moments were when she felt fear or pain. The best moments were when she felt safe and cared for. He spoke to her gently, telling her stories of his childhood, of machines he had built, and of times he had survived other storms. Rin listened, occasionally whispering words he could not understand. The hum in the shelter fluctuated with the rhythm of her attention, growing softer when she focused on him and brighter when she drifted into her own thoughts. Milan realized that the phase was not only dangerous but also a test. It tested patience, courage, and the ability to trust another being. He felt a deep respect for Rin. Despite her fear, despite the risk she posed to him in the shelter, she endured. She trusted him, and that trust was precious. Around midnight, the energy surged again. This time, it was stronger than before. The metal panels bent slightly under the pressure, and sparks flew from the circuits. Milan moved quickly, stabilizing the field and grounding the energy with his own body. The air vibrated so intensely that he could feel it in his bones. "Rin, focus on me," he shouted. She opened her eyes, glowing brightly. "Trying, human. Trying." The hum reached a crescendo, and Milan could feel the raw power radiating from her. It was unlike anything he had experienced. He realized that if he faltered for even a second, the shelter would be destroyed. Yet he did not flinch. He kept his hands on the containment field, keeping it stable with every ounce of strength he had. Slowly, the surge began to subside. Rin collapsed onto the cot, panting, her glow fading to a soft shimmer. Milan knelt beside her, exhausted, but relieved. "You are safe," he said softly. "You survived the surge. That is proof you can control it." Rin whispered, "Thanks." "Human eye. Learning, control." Milan nodded. He understood that the phase was only beginning, and the coming days would be even harder. But he also knew that Rin could survive it. With patience, trust, and careful preparation, they might both come through this alive. He stayed with her through the night, monitoring her breathing and energy. The storm outside raged on, but inside the shelter, a human and an alien faced the unknown together. Milan realized that this challenge was more than just survival. It was a chance to prove the value of courage, empathy, and the strength of human determination. By dawn, Rin's energy had stabilized slightly. She looked at Milan, her eyes soft and grateful. "Human, you." "Brave," she said. Milan smiled faintly, though worry lingered. "We are both brave, Rin. You are learning to control your power. We will get through this together." Outside, the ruined colony lay quiet, but inside the small shelter, human and alien prepared for the next surge. Milan knew it would come, stronger than before. But he also knew that Rin had the strength to survive it, and he had the courage to protect her. For the first time, he felt a spark of hope. They were not just surviving, they were facing the impossible together. And in that moment, he understood something profound. Humanity survived because of courage, empathy, and trust. And today, he would prove that these qualities could protect more than just humans. They could protect life itself. Even a being as powerful as Rin, the phase was coming. The danger was real. But Milan would not abandon Rin. She had trusted him, and he would honor that trust, no matter what came next. The morning began quietly, but Milan could feel a tension heavier than any storm outside. Rin sat on the cot, her silver skin shimmering softly, and her eyes glowed faintly. It was different this time, a stronger light, steady and intense. The phase had intensified. Milan knew that the coming hours would test both of them more than anything before. He approached her slowly. "Rin," he said gently, "the energy's rising. I need you to stay calm. Focus on your breathing, just like before." Rin nodded. Her lips trembled, and she whispered, "Trying. Human. Harder now." Milan studied the room. Sparks from the generator had grown more frequent, and small panels bent slightly from the pressure of her energy. The containment field held, but barely. If her power surged too much, it could collapse, destroying everything. He checked the wiring and reinforced weak points with spare metal strips. Every second counted. "Listen to me, Rin," Milan said firmly. "You are not alone. We face this together. You trust me, and I trust you. Focus on that trust. Focus on me." Her eyes flickered, and the hum in the shelter grew louder, vibrating against the walls. She trembled slightly as energy radiated outward, causing the heater to flare and sparks to jump from circuits. Milan pressed his hands to the field controls, feeling the electricity surge through his fingers. The air smelled faintly metallic, and even his hair tingled with static. Suddenly, Rin's body shuddered violently. The glow from her skin intensified, filling the shelter with blinding light. Panels warped, and the generator screamed under the strain. Milan shouted over the roar of energy, "Rin, focus on my voice. You can control it. You are stronger than this." Her body convulsed again, and a shockwave of energy bent the shelter walls outward. Milan held his ground, pushing the containment controls to their limits. Sparks flew around him and the floor vibrated with each pulse of her power. His heart pounded, but he did not falter. Fear would not help. Only action and courage would save them. Minutes passed like hours. Rin's glow flared and then dimmed slightly. She gasped for air, her body trembling from the effort of control. Milan knelt beside her, placing a hand on her shoulder. "You are doing it, Rin. You are controlling it. Keep breathing. Slow, steady, steady." Her eyes met his, filled with gratitude and determination. "Trying, human. Trying hard," she whispered. The containment field began to stabilize. But Milan knew it would not hold for long if the surge continued. He needed a better plan. He quickly scavenged spare metal panels and reinforced the weak sections, creating a stronger frame around her. Sparks flew as he welded pieces together, but he ignored the pain in his hands. Every second counted. Rin watched him silently. Her energy responded to his presence, fluctuating with the rhythm of his movements. Milan realized then that trust and connection were as important as the containment itself. The more she trusted him, the more stable her energy became. By midday, Rin's energy surged again. This time it was different, controlled, yet intense. Waves of radiant light flowed outward from her body, causing the metal walls to hum. Milan adjusted the containment panels, guiding the energy safely into the field. The shelter shook violently, and small pieces of debris fell from the ceiling. "Stay with me, Rin," he shouted. "You can do this. Focus on me." Her glowing eyes locked onto his. Her lips moved, forming words he could barely hear. "Human. I can control." A sudden pulse shot through the shelter, and Milan felt the raw power radiating from her. Panels bent, sparks leapt, and the air vibrated so strongly that he felt it in his bones. He pressed himself against the controls, channeling his own energy into stabilizing the field. Every ounce of strength, every thought, every action had to be perfect. The surge reached its peak. Rin's body radiated light so bright it illuminated the shelter like daylight. The metal panels groaned under the strain. Milan's hands burned from the electricity, but he did not move. Fear was not an option. Only determination. Only courage. Then slowly, the energy began to subside. Rin collapsed onto the cot, exhausted but alive. Her glow dimmed to a soft shimmer, and the humming in the air quieted. Milan knelt beside her, his hands shaking but steady. "You did it," he said softly. "You controlled it. You survived the surge. That is proof of your strength." Rin looked at him, her eyes wet but calm. "Thanks, human. Helping me." Milan smiled faintly, though worry still lingered. This phase was far from over. The coming days could bring stronger surges, longer and more unpredictable. He would need to be ready for all of them. But he also knew Rin had strength beyond what he had imagined. As the night fell, the storm outside returned. Lightning flashed across the ruined colony, illuminating the jagged landscape. Inside the shelter, Milan worked tirelessly. He reinforced the enclosure further, strengthened the generator, and created small buffers to absorb sudden energy bursts. Rin sat quietly, her body glowing softly, observing him. Milan noticed something important. Whenever he spoke gently or moved carefully around her, her glow dimmed slightly. When she felt fear or confusion, it brightened. Her energy was tied to emotion, to trust, and to connection. He realized that protecting her meant more than shielding her body, it meant protecting her mind and spirit as well. Late at night, Rin spoke again in English. "Milan, phase. Stronger coming." "I know," he said firmly. "We will face it together. You are not alone. Trust me, Rin. We will survive this." The hours passed with tension and careful vigilance. Rin's energy surged and ebbed like the tide. Milan adjusted the containment field, monitored her vital signs, and spoke to her softly to calm her mind. Each surge was stronger than the last, yet she survived. Each wave tested both of them, but together they endured by dawn. Rin's body had begun to stabilize, though faint pulses of energy still radiated from her skin. She looked at Milan with gratitude and awe. "Human. You brave. Stay with me. Milan placed his hand on hers. We are both brave, Rin. You are learning control. We will get through this together, no matter what comes. Outside, the ruined colony lay quiet under the morning light. The storm had passed for now, but the air was thick with tension, a silent reminder of the danger yet to come. Inside the small shelter, human and alien prepared for the next surge. Milan knew it would come, stronger than before. But he also knew Rin had the strength to survive it. He had the courage to protect her. He realized then that this challenge was more than survival. It was a test of trust, patience, and courage. Humanity had survived countless trials because of these qualities. And now Milan would prove that these qualities could protect more than humans. They could protect life itself. Even a being as powerful as Rin, the phase would continue. The danger was real. But Milan would not abandon Rin. She had trusted him, and he would honor that trust no matter the cost. The shelter trembled violently as Rin's energy surged beyond anything Milan had ever seen. The small containment field shook, metal panels bending and groaning under the immense pressure. Sparks flew from the generator, and the floor vibrated with each pulse of her radiant power. Milan's hands were on the controls, grounding the energy as best as he could. His heart pounded and sweat ran down his face, but he did not move away. Fear was a luxury he could not afford. Rin, focus on my voice. You can control it. Trust me. Milan shouted over the roar of energy. Her silver skin glowed blindingly, her eyes shining like twin moons. She trembled on the cot, trying desperately to hold back the immense power within her. Trying. Human cannot. Much, she whispered, her voice trembling. Milan clenched his jaw and pressed every button, adjusted every panel, and grounded the surging energy with every ounce of strength he had. The air in the shelter was alive with electricity. Sparks danced across every surface, and small objects lifted slightly as waves of energy passed through the room. The surge intensified. Milan realized that the shelter would not hold much longer. The walls bent outward, threatening to collapse, and the generator sputtered violently. But he could not leave Rin. He could not abandon her in the middle of this transformation. You are stronger than you think, Rin. You have survived every surge before this. You can do it again. Trust yourself. Trust me, he yelled, grounding himself against the humming metal panels. Rin's eyes met his, glowing brighter than ever. She gasped for air, and her hands lifted slightly from the cot. Energy radiated from her body in waves, bending the metal around her, lifting debris, and making the air shimmer. Milan could feel the raw force of her power pressing against him. But he held fast. Then suddenly, the energy surged outward in a massive pulse, striking the walls of the shelter. Panels twisted, sparks flew in every direction, and the generator screamed under the strain. Milan's hands burned, his arms shaking, but he refused to let go. He anchored the containment field with all his strength, redirecting the energy safely. Rin, now, focus on me, he shouted. Her lips moved, forming words that were barely audible. Human. I can. Control now. The glow from her body flared brighter than the morning sun. Waves of energy rippled outward, bending the shelter and rattling the ground beneath them. Milan pressed his body against the controls, groaning the pulse through his own strength, feeling every vibration and every surge as if it were part of him. And then, slowly, the energy began to stabilize. Rin's body shimmered, her glow softening from blinding light to a gentle radiance. Her breathing was heavy, but steady. The hum in the shelter quieted us, leaving only the sound of their combined efforts and the fading storm outside. Milan fell to his knees beside her, exhausted but alive. You did it, Rin, he said softly. You survived the surge. You controlled it. That is proof of your strength. Rin looked at him, her luminous eyes filled with relief and gratitude. Thanks. Human you. Brave. Stay. With me, she whispered. Milan smiled faintly, though his body ached and his hands burned. We are both brave, Rin. You have faced the impossible, and I have faced it with you. That is why we survived. That is why we are here. For the next hour, the shelter remained tense but calm. Milan adjusted the panels, reinforced the generator, and ensured the containment field held. Rin rested quietly, her glow soft but steady. She occasionally lifted her hands, causing faint ripples in the air. But the energy no longer threatened the shelter. Rin, Milan said gently, "The phase is over, or at least under control. You are safe now. You did it. You survived the most dangerous part." Rin nodded weakly, a small smile forming on her lips. "Thanks, human, for everything. Without you, maybe lost." Milan shook his head. "No, Rin, it is not just me. It is trust, courage, and the will to survive. That is what keeps humans alive, what makes us strong. You survived because you trusted me, and I trusted you. That is the strength of life." Outside, the storm had passed, leaving the ruins of the colony glistening under the pale sunlight. The air was still charged faintly from Rin's residual energy, creating a soft shimmer that lingered around the shelter. Milan stepped outside briefly to feel the sunlight on his face. The ruined world was harsh, but alive, and so were they. Arin rose slowly from the cot, her silver skin glowing faintly, her posture strong and calm. Her eyes reflected the sunlight, showing not just gratitude but a new sense of power and awareness. Milan watched her, amazed by the transformation he had witnessed. "You changed?" he asked softly. Arin nodded. "Phase complete. Stronger. Controlled. Thanks. Human." Milan felt a swell of pride and relief. She had survived what could have destroyed her. Her species' dangerous phase had begun, yet she had emerged intact, not just alive, but stronger than before. It was a testament to courage, trust, and the bond between them. "Rin," Milan said, "your kind is incredible. And now, you know you can face this. But never forget the strength humans can give when they choose to protect life." Rin stepped outside with him, her glow faint against the rising sun. "Your courage, human. Teaching me," she said softly. "Your people, special." Milan smiled, feeling the warmth of the sunlight and the quiet pride of survival. "We are," he said simply, "because we help each other. That is our strength." They stood together, watching the ruined colony. The wind was gentle now, carrying the scent of rain and burned metal. Birds and small creatures, previously hidden by the storms, began to emerge, circling the ruins. Life was returning, fragile but steady, just like Rin's energy. Then, Rin turned to Milan, placing her hand on his shoulder. Her touch was warm and comforting, and the glow from her body radiated softly into him. "Human promise. My people. Remember. You," she whispered. Milan nodded. "I promise, Rin, and I know they will. Your courage and strength, your trust in me, those things cannot be forgotten." Rin smiled faintly. Her silver form began to shimmer more brightly as she prepared to leave. She looked back at Milan, a silent promise in her eyes. Then, with a graceful leap, she stepped into the open air. Her body lifted effortlessly, and she floated toward her ship, which had been repaired quietly during the calm. Milan watched as the ship rose into the sky, leaving a trail of soft light in its wake. The glow left behind by Rin lingered on the ground, a perfect circle of light that would never fade. It marked the shelter, the place of survival, courage, and trust. It marked the bond between human and alien, a testament to what could be achieved when one species chose to protect another, alone in the shelter. Milan reflected on the events of the past days. He had faced storms, alien powers, and near destruction, but he had endured. More than that, he had protected life beyond his own species. And in doing so, he had proven something essential, that courage, empathy, and determination were universal strengths. He stepped outside fully, breathing in the fresh post-storm air. The ruined colony stretched before him, battered but not broken. Life would continue here, fragile and precious. And somewhere above, Rin's people would remember him. The human who had stood by her during the most dangerous phase of her life, Milan smiled faintly, feeling a quiet sense of pride. Humanity had survived countless trials, not because of strength alone, but because of heart, courage, and the willingness to protect others. Today, he had proven that once again. As the sun rose higher, casting light across the scarred world, Milan turned back to the shelter. He would repair it, improve it, and prepare for whatever challenges might come next. But he would never forget the lessons he had learned, nor the trust he had earned from Rin, the alien who had survived a phase that could have destroyed her species. And somewhere in the skies above, a silver glow shimmered faintly, a reminder that life, trust, and courage could shine even in the harshest places. Milan took a deep breath and smiled. Humanity had endured. Humanity had protected. Humanity had proven once again that even in a universe filled with danger and unknown powers, courage and heart were the strongest forces of all. The afterlight of Rin's phase lingered, soft and steady, as a symbol of survival, trust, and the extraordinary strength of both human and alien alike.